He waited 3 months to kiss me, 3 whole months, and I ruined everything in 3 seconds. It started the night I stood in his kitchen, watching him slice bell peppers for tacos. His brow was furrowed, tongue between his teeth in concentration, like sautéing vegetables was a matter of national security. I remember thinking, this is what safety feels like. Not roses or candlelight or a playlist of Marvin Gaye songs. Just quiet, steady, intentional. His name was Lucas, and he was nothing like the men I'd dated before. He didn't flirt aggressively or flood my inbox with shirtless selfies. He never called me baby or sexy or any other name that made me feel like a side dish. No, Lucas opened doors, asked how my day was, and actually listened. He walked me to my car even when I parked 2 feet from the entrance. He remembered that I was allergic to kiwis and that I hated when people touched my knees. We met in the most boring way possible, standing in line at the DMV. I dropped my coffee on the floor and muttered something that definitely wasn't ladylike. He laughed, handed me a napkin from his pocket, yes, who carries napkins, and offered to hold my place in line while I cleaned up. Then he texted me later. Yes, he somehow found me on LinkedIn, just to check in and make sure your pride survived the caffeine disaster. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to perform to earn someone's attention. I could show up in sweatpants with no mascara and still feel seen. But I was cautious. Too cautious. I told Lucas I'd been through a messy breakup, technically true. What I didn't tell him was that it wasn't just messy, it was muddy and manipulative. My ex had a habit of ghosting me when I needed him most, only to return with a bouquet and some half-assed apology that made me doubt my own sanity. That relationship left me bruised, not the kind you see, but the kind you carry in your gut, the kind that whispers, don't trust this, even when everything looks good on paper. Lucas said he understood, that he'd wait. And he did. For weeks, he held my hand without trying to sneak a kiss. For weeks, he'd walk me to my door and say goodnight, no pressure, no expectation. My therapist called it secure attachment. My best friend called it boring. You need a man who grabs you by the waist and pins you to the wall, she said once over cocktails. This guy sounds like he'd ask permission to hold your elbow. But I liked the way Lucas made me feel. I liked the warmth in his eyes, the slow burn of connection that didn't feel like a countdown to chaos. Still, something in me was restless. When Lucas finally kissed me, soft, hesitant, as if he was waiting for me to flinch, I should have felt fireworks. I should have leaned in, deepened the kiss, let it finally be real. But instead, my stomach twisted. Not because it wasn't good, but because I already knew I'd betrayed him. 2 weeks before that kiss, I made a stupid, selfish choice. I ran into my ex, Noah, the same Noah who disappeared for 5 weeks after I told him I thought I might be pregnant last year. The same Noah who called me too much when I cried and overreacting when I stayed silent. He looked different this time, cleaner, calmer, wearing a button-up shirt like he was trying to play grown-up. We got coffee. I swore it was closure. But somehow, closure looked like tequila shots and blurred lines, and waking up in his apartment with a hangover and a text from Lucas that said, "Hope your morning's as beautiful as you are." I didn't reply to that message. I couldn't. I ghosted Lucas for 3 days. Then I snapped out of it, blocked Noah again, promised myself I'd never sabotage something real again, and threw myself back into us. Lucas welcomed me back like nothing had happened. No questions, just kindness. 3 weeks later, the test turned positive. 2 pink lines that felt like a car crash. I stared at it on my bathroom sink for an hour. Did the math, counted backwards, it was Lucas's, it couldn't be. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't eat the next day. Didn't answer my sister's calls or check my emails or even get out of my bathrobe for 36 hours. And then I did what any emotionally stunted coward would do. I got dressed, did my hair, put on lip gloss, and showed up at Lucas's apartment. He opened the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair messy from a nap, eyes lighting up the way they always did when he saw me. I smiled, tried not to cry, tried not to vomit. "Hey," he said, stepping aside, "you okay?" I nodded, lied. "Can we talk?" He looked concerned but not alarmed. He didn't know the bomb I was about to drop. I sat on his couch. He brought me tea. And then I chickened out. I didn't say it. I didn't tell him I was pregnant. I didn't tell him it wasn't his. I didn't tell him about Noah, or the tequila, or the test still sitting in my medicine cabinet. Instead, I said, I think I need a little space. His face fell, but only slightly. He nodded again. Okay, he whispered, do you want to talk about it? I didn't. I couldn't. So I left. And the next time he saw me, I wasn't alone. I was pregnant, visibly. And I was walking into the same brunch spot where we'd shared our first date. Only this time, he wasn't the one sitting across from me. He saw me before I saw him. I was halfway through the cafe door, one hand on my belly, the other holding a smoothie I suddenly didn't want anymore. The place still smelled like cinnamon rolls and burnt espresso, just like the first time he took me here. I hadn't planned to walk in. My ob was nearby, I was hungry, and I wasn't thinking. Or maybe I was. Maybe part of me wanted him to see. Maybe I was tired of carrying this guilt around like a tumor no one could detect. The moment I spotted him, corner booth, navy hoodie, black coffee in hand, I froze. He was laughing at something someone said, head tilted, the way he always did when he was pretending to be fine. Then our eyes met. The laugh died. His jaw clenched. And I swear the air went out of the room. The woman sitting across from him, curly hair, red lipstick, too pretty laugh, turned to see what he was staring at. Her smile faded when she saw me, a visibly pregnant woman in leggings and an oversized hoodie that barely hid what had become undeniable. I blinked, I almost turned around. But I didn't. Instead, I walked right up to their table, heart pounding like I was stepping into a courtroom or a funeral. He didn't say a word. Not hi, not what the hell, not even my name. Hi, I said to the woman. Sorry to interrupt, I just need a second. She looked at Lucas, then back at me. She didn't move. I'm pregnant, I said, my voice cracked. And, it's not his, but he waited for me. He was kind to me, and I lied to him. Lucas's eyes narrowed slightly. Why are you doing this? I couldn't answer. I just stood there, blinking back tears, suddenly aware of how absurd it all looked. Me with a swollen belly, wrecking his coffee date like some uninvited ghost from a relationship graveyard. The woman across from him grabbed her purse and stood. I should go. You don't have to, Lucas said quietly. I know, she replied, but I want to. She gave me one last look, not judgmental, just confused. Then she walked away. Lucas didn't speak for a long time. He just sipped his coffee, like he was trying to pretend this wasn't happening. I slid into the booth across from him. He looked tired. Why now? He asked finally. I stared at my smoothie, at the condensation dripping down the side. I don't know. Bullshit. Okay, I snapped. Because I saw you laughing, because I saw you moving on, and I thought maybe if I said it out loud, it would hurt less. Did it? No. He leaned back, folding his arms. Is it his? I didn't have to ask who he meant. I nodded, yes. You said you needed space. I did. Was that code for, I need to get knocked up by my ex? I flinched. Lucas. No, you don't get to Lucas your way out of this. You knew the second you walked out of my apartment. I nodded again, there wasn't anything left to argue. I thought maybe you'd come back, he said, voice low. I was stupid enough to think you were just scared. I was scared. And selfish. That one landed. He picked up his mug, then set it down again. You said you wanted slow? I respected that. I waited. God, I waited so long for you to feel safe, and you were never really here. I was trying. Not hard enough. I opened my mouth to say something, what I'm not sure, an apology, an explanation, another lie. But he beat me to it. I loved you, he said. I never told you because I didn't want to scare you off, but I did. Every version of you, even the cautious, quiet, guarded one, I loved all of it, and I still might. That last part broke me. I'm not asking for anything, I whispered. I'm not trying to get you back or, God, I don't even know what I'm doing here. You're here because guilt burns hotter than shame. I swallowed hard, maybe. He nodded slowly, so what now? I keep the baby, I said. Not because of Noah, definitely not for him, but for me, because I'm done running from consequences. Lucas exhaled, rubbed a hand down his face. You know, I pictured a life with you. I did too. 100 versions. All of them evaporating now. I'm sorry, I said. He stared at me for a long time, then he stood. I thought he might walk away. Instead, he came around the table and stood beside me. Then he bent slightly and pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Not romantic. Not forgiving. But final. And then he walked out of the cafe. I didn't go home right away. I sat in that cafe for another hour, the smoothie melting into a syrupy mess while I scrolled through photos I should have deleted months ago. Me and Lucas on the rooftop bar, me and Lucas at that weird art gallery he loved, me smiling in his oversized flannel like I had any right to wear it. The barista asked if I wanted a refill. I just shook my head. When I finally got back to my car, I saw the text waiting from Noah. Noah, did you have your appointment? Everything okay? Everything okay. I stared at that message so long my screen dimmed, then I typed back. Me. Fine, also ran into Lucas, told him. I watched the 3 dots pop up, then vanish, then pop up again. Noah. Okay, I'm sorry you had to do that. No anger, no jealousy, just cold politeness like he was some coworker I barely knew. That was the whole thing about Noah. He never fought, never yelled, never even tried. He just drifted through our breakup like a man packing for a long trip, methodical, quiet, already gone before the door closed. The pregnancy wasn't planned, not even close. One night, one impulsive moment after running into him at a friend's party. We talked too long, drank too much, slipped back into old grooves like fools who hadn't learned anything the first time. I didn't even tell him I was pregnant until the 2nd trimester. I wasn't sure if I was keeping it until then. And when I did tell him, he said, "Whatever you decide, I'll support you." Except he didn't really mean support, not in the Lucas sense. He meant, I won't object, but don't expect me to build a crib. And I didn't. But what I couldn't stomach, what ate at me every damn day, was that Lucas would've. He would have been in that delivery room. He would have rubbed my back and talked to my belly and played the dumb Mozart for Babies playlists at night just because the internet said so. He was the kind of man who waited 3 months to kiss a woman because she said she needed time. And I replaced him with someone who couldn't even bother to show up for an ultrasound. 2 days passed before I heard from Lucas again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a Venmo request. $19.50 for the coffee and the wasted hope. I laughed out loud. Alone in my kitchen, hand on my belly, baby hiccuping inside me like some kind of cosmic punchline. I didn't accept or decline. I just stared at it, half tempted to add $100 and reply. For all the ways I broke you and didn't know how to say it right. But I didn't. Instead, I went into a spiral. You know the kind, hours of reliving moments, rereading old texts, wondering how you got from "I'm so lucky to know you" to "I can't look at you right now." I watched our messages like they were a murder documentary, trying to spot the moment everything started to rot. Maybe it was the night I ghosted him for 24 hours. Maybe it was when he offered to cook dinner and I told him I wasn't in the mood for performative boyfriend energy. Maybe it was the kiss. Yeah, the kiss. It was soft, earnest, like he meant it. I should have said it back. I should have told him I was scared, that I didn't know how to be loved like that. But I didn't. I ghosted him again 3 days later. And a week after that, I was pregnant with someone else's kid. When I went in for my 24-week scan, the technician asked if the father was coming. No, I said. You want us to record the heartbeat for him. I thought about it. But no. Not for him. Not anymore. Afterward, I sat in the car, still in my paper gown, windows rolled down, watching a dad help his toddler put on sunglasses. The kid kept knocking them off. The dad kept laughing. I don't know why it made me cry. Or maybe I do. I was mourning someone who wasn't even dead. Later that night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I played it. Lucas. His voice was steady, maybe a little sad. Hey, look, I shouldn't have been a dick at the cafe. I mean, I was angry. Still am, I guess, but I didn't need to humiliate you. You did that on your own. Pause. I know that's harsh, but I don't want to pretend we're fine. You blew up something good, and I can't pretend I wasn't part of that. I ignored a lot of signs. I wanted something you weren't ready to give. That's on me. Another pause. But hey, I hope the baby's healthy. I really do. Click. I replayed it 4 times. I didn't call back. There was nothing left to say. But for the first time in weeks, I slept without clenching my jaw. Because Lucas might never forgive me. But at least now, he knew the truth. And sometimes that's all you get. I wish I could say that voicemail was closure. But closure isn't something you receive like a refund or a blessing. It's what you do with the silence after someone stops trying. And let me tell you, silence can be louder than a scream. 2 weeks after Lucas's message, I ran into his best friend, Harper. At the goddamn grocery store. I was at the self-checkout line with a cart full of pickles, Gatorade, and almond milk. Because apparently that's what pregnancy turns you into, and she was 2 aisles over, inspecting cantaloupes like they were security threats. I tried to avoid eye contact. But Harper wasn't the type to let awkwardness win. She marched right over, her heels clicking like judgment itself. Wow, she said, eyes dropping to my stomach. Guess the gluten-free phase really worked out. I forced a smile. Hey, Harper. She crossed her arms. He really loved you, you know. Harper. No, listen, I'm not saying this to shame you. I'm saying it because you need to hear it. He waited. He defended you when we all thought you were just playing with him. And then you show up pregnant by someone else? That broke him. I didn't mean to. But you did. You meant to keep him on a hook until you were ready. And when you weren't, you didn't even cut the line. You let it snap. I should have walked away. I should have told her she didn't know the whole story. But the truth. She knew enough. I left the almond milk behind and cried in the car with the engine running. That night, I texted Lucas. Just one line. Me. Did you tell them about the voicemail? He didn't respond. Not that night, not the next. But then, Saturday afternoon, I got a message. Lucas. No, but Harper guessed. You know she always does. I hesitated before replying. Me. Do you hate me? Another pause, then. Lucas. I don't know what I feel anymore. That was worse than hate. As the baby grew, my world shrank. I stopped going to brunches. I declined invites. I couldn't handle the way people looked at me, either too pitying or too curious, like my stomach was a mystery they were dying to solve. One night, my mom called. Sweetheart, I've been thinking. You haven't posted anything since the first bump picture. I know. People are wondering. Let them. She was quiet for a moment. Do you want me there when you go into labor? I almost said yes. But I couldn't promise anything anymore. Let's see how things go. Lucas's name came up again a month later. At my OB appointment, I was filling out emergency contact forms. The nurse asked if the father was still out of the picture. I just nodded. Then she asked, anyone else you'd trust with your life? And I thought of Lucas. Not because he was still in my life, but because, in the deepest parts of my memory, he still felt like safety. I wrote his name. Then crossed it out. Then wrote my sister's instead. Because wanting someone to be there and deserving them to be there, those are 2 very different things. The next text from Lucas came unexpectedly. Middle of a Tuesday, no preamble. Lucas. Can I be real with you? Me. Always. Lucas. If this baby was mine, I'd be at every checkup. I'd be arguing with the nurses about car seat safety. I'd be buying you magnesium and those weird stretch mark oils. I'd be building IKEA cribs with extra bolts just in case. I'd be packing the hallways and talking to your stomach like an idiot. I read it over and over, until my tears blurred the screen. Me. I know. Lucas. Why wasn't I enough? I froze. There it was. The question I'd been dodging, from Harper, from my mother, from myself. Why wasn't he enough? Maybe because I wasn't ready. Maybe because I didn't think I deserved something that pure. Or maybe because I didn't trust something that gentle could actually last. Me. You were too good, and I was too afraid. No reply. Just silence. Again. Weeks passed, then months. Third trimester hit like a freight train. I couldn't see my feet. My back hated me. My brain was oatmeal. And through it all, Lucas remained a ghost with a heartbeat. Until one night, he showed up. I mean literally. I opened the door to find him standing on my porch, hair messy, hoodie half-zipped, holding a box. What? It's for the baby, he said. Don't freak out, I won't stay. Inside the box, 3 books, a hand-knit blanket Harper probably, a stuffed fox, and a handwritten note. Not to me. To the baby. I didn't read it right away. I waited until he left. Then I sat on the couch and unfolded it with shaking hands. Dear little one, I'm not your dad, but I loved your mom once. Maybe part of me still does. I wanted a life with her, and maybe if things were different, I'd be the one packing outside that delivery room. You'll never owe me anything. But if you ever read this someday, just know I was cheering for you even from the sidelines. Always. I read it 10 times. Then I folded it and tucked it in the baby's memory box. Even if this child never met him, they deserve to know someone like him existed. And maybe someday, I'd tell them the whole story. Not the sanitized version. The real one. Where I lost something rare. And still tried to build something good out of the wreckage. Labor came 2 weeks early. It wasn't dramatic. No cinematic water breaking in the cereal aisle. No speeding car with hazard lights. Just a long, quiet cramp at 3 in the morning that wouldn't go away. By the time I got to the hospital, I was dilated enough that they wheeled me straight in. I was alone. I told my sister not to come until I said so. I didn't want people sitting beside me in false cheer while I tried not to fall apart. I thought of Lucas the entire time. Not the man who ghosted me. The man who made me tea with honey when I had the flu, who built a bird feeder outside my kitchen window and texted me every time a cardinal showed up. The man who waited, really waited, because I said I needed time. And I'd given that gift to someone else. I'd given it to a man who blocked me the second I said I was keeping the baby. Yeah, that part of the story, I didn't mention it earlier. Probably because I still couldn't process the fact that I got left twice, once emotionally, once completely. So I breathed through the contractions, gritted my teeth through the pain, focused on the baby, focused on someone who wouldn't disappear the minute I asked for something real. It was a girl. 7 pounds, pink, squirmy, furious little lungs. I cried harder than she did. The birth certificate sat blank for days. They kept asking me for a name, and I had one in mind, Macy. It was soft, old-fashioned, just like the name Lucas once said he liked in passing when we were watching a Netflix show with a 1930s nanny. Macy, he'd said, cute, right? Now it was written in neat block letters on the form, no father listed. The nurse gave me a look I couldn't quite name. Pity, judgment. Maybe just curiosity. You've got the whole room to yourself, that's rare. I just nodded. If I opened my mouth, I might have screamed. The first night home with Macy, I broke down. She wouldn't sleep unless I held her upright. My arms were noodles. My boobs ached. My C-section scar burned every time I shifted in bed. And at 2:42 a.m., while rocking her in the glow of the nightlight, I whispered, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so sorry, baby girl. I really thought someone would be here. Macy burped dramatically and blinked. It was almost enough to laugh, almost. Instead, I cried into her soft hair. And I texted Lucas. Emmy. She's here. Emmy. Macy. Emmy. She has a tiny dimple on her left cheek. You'd love it. I didn't expect a reply. But I just needed the words to leave my body. They were too heavy to carry anymore. The next afternoon, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. So when I opened the door in sweatpants, burp cloth still on my shoulder, and saw him standing there, I thought I was hallucinating. Lucas looked exhausted, paler, slimmer, like he'd been carrying his own kind of grief. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He walked in like a ghost who remembered where everything used to be. I didn't ask why he came. I didn't need to. He sat on the edge of the couch, hands in his lap. Then I walked over and handed him Macy. He didn't flinch. Didn't hesitate. Just cradled her like he'd done it 1,000 times in his head. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "Looks like you." "Poor kid," I said, trying to smile. He looked up. "No, lucky kid." There was a long silence. Then, "I know she's not mine." I nodded. But if there's ever space for me to be part of her life, even a small part, I'd show up. Every time. I swallowed hard. "You don't owe me that." He shook his head. "You're right, I don't, but I want to." Macy cooed softly in his arms, like she approved. And suddenly, the air in the room shifted. Not into happily ever after. This wasn't some second chance romance. But maybe something gentler. Something real. He started visiting once a week. Always brought groceries, or soup, or flowers that looked half-wilted but always smelled like hope. He never stayed long, never pushed. But every time he held Macy, she calmed instantly. "Traitor," I used to whisper, grinning. Lucas would just wink and say, "What can I say? Bobbies dig my energy." By month 3, my sister pulled me aside. "You sure this isn't getting complicated?" "It already was complicated," I said. "This is just less lonely." She nodded, but I saw the worry in her eyes. Hell, I felt it in my own gut. Was I leading him on? Or was he leading me to a version of love that didn't need labels? One night, I asked him straight out, "Why are you doing this?" Lucas paused. "Because I believe people can fumble a good thing and still deserve to build a new one. With the same person. Sometimes. Is that what you want?" He looked at me, eyes soft. "I want you to want it too. I'm not building something for you, Ellie. I'm just here in case you want to build with me." I didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, I leaned into the silence. Let it wrap around us like a slow-burning apology. Macy sneezed in her sleep. And for the first time in months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, the wreckage had room for something more than regret. It had room for roots. I thought rebuilding something with Lucas would feel like a grand gesture, like fireworks, like falling all over again. But it didn't. It felt like unloading the dishwasher while he held the baby. Like texting him a picture of Macy in a giraffe onesie. Like him knocking once before entering, and me forgetting to care that I hadn't brushed my hair all day. It felt quiet. Safe. Which scared the hell out of me. Because quiet didn't mean simple. It meant I had time to think. And thinking meant feeling. And feeling meant guilt. Macy had colic for 2 straight weeks. The kind where you try every trick. Warm baths, white noise, walking figure 8s through your apartment until your knees crack. Lucas came over on a Tuesday and didn't leave until Thursday. He didn't sleep, just took turns holding her, singing the worst off-key versions of Fleetwood Mac songs I'd ever heard. I told him he sounded like a drunk raccoon in a karaoke bar. He grinned. She likes it. Clearly, she has no taste. By Friday morning, Macy finally passed out. And I stood there, bleary-eyed, watching this man I once made wait for a kiss, rocking a child he didn't father like she was his compass. "I don't know how to thank you," I said. "You don't have to." I swallowed, "But I do." He sat down on the couch, Macy curled on his chest, and gave me a look I hadn't seen since the night we kissed. That waiting look. Not demanding. Not expectant. Just available. "I know she's not yours," I whispered, voice cracking, "but you treat her like she's sacred." Lucas didn't look away. "Because she is, because you are." That's when I cried. Not sobbed, just leaked. Salt and exhaustion and years of guarding my heart finally slipping out through my stupid, tired eyes. He reached for my hand. And I let him take it. This time, I didn't pull away. We didn't call it dating. There were no candlelit dinners, no Facebook status changes. Just more of everything. More mornings, he made coffee without being asked. More evenings, he brought diapers before I realized we were low. More Wednesdays where he read Macy board books in ridiculous British accents while I sat on the floor and listened, laughing. But then came the baby shower. Not mine, my cousin's. It was a fancy, pre-birth event for her second kid. All pastels and mason jars and fake mustache, straws for the boy mom theme. I wore a dress for the first time in months and slapped on concealer like war paint. Lucas offered to come. Family thing, I warned. You sure? I'll be your buffer, he said. I'll mock the diaper raffle and stand by the snack table. It's what I do best. He was joking. But we both knew it was a test. And I failed it. You two look cozy, my Aunt Diane said, giving Lucas the kind of once-over usually reserved for wine bottles. I smiled politely. He's a friend. Just a friend, she teased. You have a baby, there's no just anymore. I hated that logic. But before I could argue, Lucas chimed in. She's incredible, both of them are. God, he was good. Too good. Like someone trying to earn a place that wasn't open yet. That night, I pulled back. After the party, I didn't invite him upstairs. Just waved from the car, thanking him for everything with a smile so fake it should have been trademarked. He didn't push. But the next day, he didn't text either. The silence was louder than Macy's cries. By Sunday, I caved. Me. Hey, sorry if I was weird. That baby shower crowd drains me. Lucas. It's okay, you don't owe me explanations. But I did. I owed him everything I hadn't said out loud. Like the fact that I still didn't trust myself to pick good men, that I was scared I'd hurt him again. That the idea of letting someone all the way in, after the disaster of Macy's father, felt like building a house on a fault line. But how do you say that? How do you say I love you when the words sound too fragile to survive daylight? So instead, I said nothing. And the days stretched between us like taut thread. Macy turned 6 months old. I baked a tiny cake she couldn't eat and cried over photos she couldn't remember. Lucas didn't come. Didn't text. Didn't call. My sister noticed, where's Mr. Wednesday? I tried to joke. Probably finally figured out he can do better than someone who ghosted him emotionally while handing him a baby that isn't his. She didn't laugh. Neither did I. That night, after Macy fell asleep with frosting in her hair, I stared at my phone until my eyes hurt. And finally texted. Me. I miss you. His response didn't come for 3 hours. But when it did, it broke me. Lucas. I miss me too, when I was with you. 2 days later, he showed up at my door. Holding a manila envelope. I'm not here to guilt you, he said softly. I stepped aside, heart hammering. He handed me the envelope. Inside were photos. Macy smiling. Me laughing. Lucas in the background, always slightly behind but always there. You don't owe me anything, he said, but I think we owe her the truth. I looked at him, shaking. What truth? That sometimes families aren't built by blood, they're built by choice. I stared at the photos in the envelope like they were radioactive. There we were, me, Lucas, Macy, captured in little, unposed moments. Me wiping baby food off my chin while Lucas smirked in the background. Lucas asleep on the couch with Macy on his chest. Macy laughing up at me while I tried and failed to braid her baby hair into something resembling a part. None of them were glamorous. But every photo screamed home. And I hated how that broke me more than any romantic speech ever could. Because it wasn't about big declarations, it was about presence, and Lucas had been present since the day I crumbled in that parking lot. I don't know what you want me to say, I finally whispered. He didn't flinch. I'm not here for you to say anything, I just needed you to see it. See what? That we were already something. That my silence hadn't erased what we'd built. Or that it had. Lucas didn't stay long. He gave Macy a forehead kiss, squeezed my hand once and said, "Happy 6 months, little wild thing." Then left. And I stood in the doorway, holding a manila envelope full of memories I hadn't even realized were ours. For the next 2 days, I went through every emotion like a broken slot machine. Regret, rage, sadness, denial. And then finally, I hit something close to clarity. Not a prize, not a win, but a bitter understanding. I'd asked him to wait 3 months for a kiss. He waited over a year for a sign I was ready for something real. And instead, I kept waiting for the fear to go away. The moment came quietly. Macy had just thrown a teething ring across the living room like it had personally offended her. I bent down to get it, and my phone buzzed with a photo from Lucas. No caption, just a pic of a tiny onesie on a rack at Target. It read Mom's boss, Dad's backup. I laughed. A real one. And texted back, buy it. He sent a thumbs up. And that's when I said it. The thing I'd been afraid of saying too soon or too late or too broken. Me. Hey, you were never backup. 3 dots. And then, Lucas. I know, but it feels good to hear it. We didn't become perfect after that. There were still mornings I cried in the shower from sheer exhaustion. Still nights when I questioned if I was screwing up everything, Macy's childhood, my own healing, Lucas's heart. But I stopped running. That was the difference. I let him hold my hand even when I was anxious. Let him sit beside me even when I was spiraling. Let him show up. Because that's what he always did. Even when I didn't. The first time Macy said Dada, we were in line at a CVS. She was grabbing at a bag of goldfish crackers, and Lucas leaned down to stop her, grinning. Let's use our inside voice, boss lady. And she looked right at him and said it. Not duh or bah, not babble. Dada. Lucas froze. I froze. The cashier said, oh my God, did she just? Yeah, I said, eyes wet. She did. Macy clapped, oblivious, triumphant, a queen crowning her king. And Lucas, he didn't say anything at all. He just smiled like someone who'd been waiting a very, very long time to be claimed. People still ask how we met. Sometimes I say, he waited 3 months to kiss me. Sometimes I add, and I showed up pregnant by someone else. Depends on how honest I feel that day. But the truth, the real truth, he didn't fall in love with the girl I was when we met. He fell in love with the mess I became. With the woman who tried to be brave and kept failing. With the mother who didn't know what the hell she was doing. With the me who didn't think she deserved second chances. And then gave her one anyway. There's a picture of us now. It sits on our fridge, crooked, always sliding because Macy keeps stealing the magnet for her dolls. It's from a beach day that wasn't romantic at all. Sand in the sandwiches, seagulls attacking our chips, Macy peeing through her swimsuit onto Lucas's lap. But we're all laughing. I'm mid-aisle. Macy's face is full of goldfish dust. And Lucas is looking at us like he never waited a day in his life. Like this was always the plan. Even when it was. Especially then. Subscribe to my Mia's Stories YouTube channel for raw, emotional stories and authentic insights that encourage healing, growth, and understanding. Don't forget to be part of a supportive space where stories inspire and lessons resonate. What do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments. Your opinion truly matters to us, and we're here for you.